Good
Good
morning.
morning, Danielle. Good to have you back on the
Thank
show.
you. How I missed that theme song.
I know
So nice.
it's even better when it's live as well. Well, welcome everybody to the HR Morning Show. We are super excited today. We have a special guest, which we'll just get to in 1 second. But I just want to remind everybody, this is a live show. So if you can get into the chat, doesn't matter who's live you're going through, get in the chat. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and your purpose and mission. No, just tell us who you are and where you're from. But Taran, welcome. Why don't you give us an intro on who you are for anyone who somehow does not know who you are? Would love to. We would love to hear that.
Okay, so absolutely, I'm one of those guys who does not get picked on by the soccer moms. So,
Good.
On Snapchat.
yes, indeed, Torrin Ellis, diversity strategist, risk mitigator. I am absolutely unapologetic and focused on
Mm,
humanity, building inclusive and
Mm.
representative teams. And despite the assault that takes place on D&I, you will not see me retract. So that's who I am.
I love it, man. Well, welcome to the
Oh
show. Is
yeah.
this your first time on the show?
Absolutely. And look how we showed up.
I love it. I
Like,
love
I
it.
mean, right
Hosting the
here.
whole thing.
No career progression. We just did a better interview than some of the others, and here we are.
We just
Uh,
put you on the stage.
I love it. I love it. You went from just guest to host right away. Well, we miss Adam Posner. We will say we got to give a shout out to the Pos. I don't think he's recovered from TA week, which is why he's not here with us right now. But Pos, if you're out, oh, he is out there. He said,
Yeah, he's
hold
down there.
down the fort. I'll be back next week.
Yes, indeed.
Hopefully you will. Well, it's great to have you, Taran. Great to have you with us.
My man.
For any of you guys who are not familiar with Purple Acorn, you can go to purpleacornnetwork.com. And we have a ton of shows. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but we're kind of taking over. We've got the Alder Hour. We've got, what else do we have, Danielle?
A full lineup of
Yeah,
shows
you got to
every
name the
week.
shows. You got to name them.
Oh, my first job with Mike Wood on Thursdays.
Shout out to Mike Wood.
Wednesdays is it's the girls from
Hire her.
Yes, the Hire Her
Yeah.
podcast. Thank you. And then we have Jada Montebanaro on Fridays.
On Fridays. Yep. So we got a full lineup. Super excited. And guys, if you are out there, let us know. We got Raymond in the house. We've got Kaizen. Not sure what Kaizen is. We got
my
Kurt out there.
mystery coffee cup. Does anyone want to guess what's in here?
Ooh, Taran, any guesses?
Well, it's not coffee.
It's what is it?
Well,
Let
I
us
don't
know.
know. I mean, maybe it's a sponsor. We do have a new show sponsor, right? Perhaps Danielle put like the sponsor's drink in the cup.
Yeah, it's called Erin Coffee because
Uh-huh.
I'm manifesting that Erin
Ah.
makes some coffee so
Was
that I
that like
can
a first
get.
job for you, Danielle? Did you work in like a coffee shop? Was that like a first
Uh,
job for you?
that's a great question. My first job was at my parents' indoor go-karting and entertainment business. It was
Wow.
behind the counter, and I was ringing people up and scheduling them for races. And I had a little, walkie-talkie, and I was talking to the guys in the pit. And it was really cute. I was like 12, so that was my first job.
Hopefully they paid you well.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Unpaid
love.
internship.
In love and affection.
Yes,
Oh,
indeed.
well, I love it. You got to get on Mike Wood's show.
I
I did that
do.
show live, and it was a lot of fun. Like just talking about like first jobs. But guys, if you don't follow us, go onto LinkedIn, YouTube. We're a podcast, so you can find us on all of the cool places like Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Oh, look, we were asking about Mervin earlier. Mervin is
We
here now.
were.
How could you miss
Mervin.
out from ecstasy? So Mervin, great to have you. Steven, I think Steven's always on YouTube for some reason. The only reason I know that is because his name is always the right
The right
order.
way.
Yeah. Everyone else isn't. So Steven, great to have you here as well. Guys, get in the chat. Let us know what's going on. All right, TA week. We did you guys at TA week? I don't think so, right?
No,
No, I wasn't there, but you all had a really good time. I'm watching all of the posts, the social posts, the hashtag, lots and lots of images, some
the
really,
best
really good
content
interviews. Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. Yeah, TA week was great. Have either of you been to TA week before?
Indeed, indeed.
Okay. Yeah, it was a good time. Lots of great TV shows, lots of great topics, and little comedy show with our producer Ben. I don't know if a lot of people would even guess that he does comedy because he's always like kind of behind the scenes when we're going to these shows, and he's running the camera, making sure the production is great. I was like, he went from a tour across Canada with like this massive influencer, got behind the camera at like 3 in the morning, it felt like, and then the next thing you know, he's entertaining everybody. So massive shout
Wild.
out to Ben. So it was a good time. We were really excited. We got Paz there. He was live. Serge was there as well. So it was really, really amazing. Do we have some footage from TA week that we can show?
Ooh.
You say Ben got in like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm wondering, can anybody guess the color of the first drink that
Oh,
Ben caught a copy of?
oh,
Oh gosh.
thinking like it's probably dark. That's what I'm
Well, I mean,
thinking.
because again, if you looked at the video, there were a couple of things that Ben caught on multiple occasions. It was the bar and the spin thing that Evan was working on, because I believe that Ben was trying to manifest either winning something or having an incredible beverage. So, what was the color? The color was orange pink.
I was
Ben,
Orange
gonna
drink,
guess pink.
like a
Oh
tequila
god.
sunrise in the morning. That's what he.
indeed, yes, indeed,
Yeah,
That's funny.
that
Wow.
is
The
hilarious. And
things you
Kurt
notice, Torin.
yes,
I love
indeed.
that.
And Kurt, well, Kurt said purple, but he also said, just saw my old company that laid me off. Oh man, now I'm guessing. I'm gonna go back and watch that video to see if I can see it as well.
Yeah, put your
Um,
guesses in the comments.
it was really fun though. The hilarious thing was we did that circle thing, and Mike Staffy, he was the first winner, and we had to put it back. So
Yeah,
we
of
can't,
course.
we can't
You
have our,
can't
our
be
people
winning.
winning.
No, no, boss man, you shouldn't even be in there in the first place.
That's what I said. Anyway, and then they put it back in. I'm like, that's just asking for it to be pulled out again. I blame Pause for that, but it was a great time, guys, and we're gonna have so much more content coming up as well, which we'll get into. Why don't we move on to headlines for this week? All right, Danielle, why don't you take this one?
All right. The headline today is Workday is laying off roughly 8.5% of its workforce. They cite this due to AI and the shift, hiring in more, AI and the new era of growth for Workday. And they also mentioned that they might be downsizing their in-person office locations, and will also be incurring between 230 million and 270 million in charges related to this restructuring. All the employees will be offered a minimum of 12 weeks of pay, additional based on tenure, and that other workers in other countries will also be offered packages as well. So that's the news.
My first thought on this is I just feel really bad that everybody who got laid. I do feel bad about the layoffs, but now they actually have to experience what it's like applying through Workday, which could even be even worse. Like you're going to apply and you see your
Yeah.
company name and you're like, it's the most terrible process
Yeah.
ever. But Taran, what are your thoughts with this? I mean, we're seeing layoffs left and right, right?
Yeah, my chief of staff and I, we were having this conversation back in November when we were in Park City, and not specifically about Workday, but in terms of layoffs in general. And
Yeah,
listen, I'm not suggesting that organizations don't need to right size, but part of the conversation was how thoughtful are they when they are going through this exercise? Is
yeah,
this a discussion where they spend an entire year thoughtfully,
mm,
methodically, really looking at headcount management, growth opportunity, acquisition strategy, just all of the things that are involved in business, or are they rushing to a decision within 90 days? I don't know the answer to that, but I do hope that these organizations begin to be far more thoughtful. We were watching something last night, and perhaps my chief of staff can throw it in the chat because I know he's out there. But I believe that organizations have not and are not doing a good enough job of telling people there is a high probability that in 2 years, in
yeah,
5 years, in 10 years, you will not be employed.
yeah.
That, I believe, is the biggest disservice.
100%. That's why it's so ironic whenever you get the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because at this point, it's like probably not with you because you are probably going to lay me off to replace me with technology. And look, we got a lot of layoffs going on right now. I know yesterday was Meta as well. They laid off people, and obviously it was leaked where they said we're laying off low performers. And so I think,
Mm.
Tara, to your point, it matters how you do and communicate these things. Obviously, that was leaked, so that was supposed to be an internal memo, but even that, it's like, is that what you want to communicate to people? Like, hey, the people you just worked with, they're low performers, they're going to be gone. Even if that is just internal, is that what you want to communicate, and how you want to communicate it as well?
I mean,
Um,
because again, when you see, think about it. If the headline is "I'm laying off poor or low performers," and
yeah,
then immediately those individuals are the ones applying for work, the
Mm.
the primary assumption is that you were not a good performer. I
yep,
know that would be the connection that I, more often would make, and so I just think that timing, messaging, all of those things are important. And if you are going to be humane, you're going to be empathetic and present in that process, you will give some strong consideration to every aspect of this particular event that's about to happen.
I will say one of the things that I thought could be a potential solution or help to make this whole situation better is if we had more transparency around which positions and which teams were being laid off and downsized. Because to Torrin's point, I don't think we have enough information collectively out here on the employee side to really understand what are the risks, which direction should I be going next, where should I be pivoting, how should I be upskilling when I am being laid off. And so I think more transparency around which teams, which functions are being laid off, and maybe a bit more about why, could help, especially from a company like Workday, which has a lot of data to share with the world. And to be honest, this could be a great opportunity for Workday to emerge as that kind of leader, as a transparent leader who is carrying the torch. And yes, maybe they have to lay off people. Lots of companies lay off or people all the time, but at the same time, there's a specific way to do it and still be a change maker.
yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
a lot of these companies too are rehiring as well. So Meta said they're going to be hiring ML and probably like AI engineers. I think Salesforce is doing the same thing, which then just begs the question: if you have that many resources to rehire, I'm not sure why you
Mhm.
can't do a restructure. And then are people being offered the option of, hey, we'll actually invest in your training? Because so much of this technology is new. So if in 3 years the technology is going to be in a different place, why not spend some of that budget on reskilling the people that want to be trained? Because you hired. The
Yeah.
irony is with all these companies, their hiring processes is so arduous and long that if they are just picking up low performers or poor talent, however you want to describe it, then when you're hiring, you should hire people that are going to be able to learn new skills as well, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, and we got some really good comments here. Kurt said, Meta's low performers are the top 10% elsewhere.
I like that.
Talisha, good morning. Good to have you. Heather said, I'd simply add on my resume laid off due to department downsizing. I might just put on there laid off for stupid reason. Maybe I'd put that on my resume just to get some attention. Brian, you shared a link. I can't see what that link is, but if you guys check out that link, probably just a link to one of these articles. And then Heather said, you plant a seed in the wrong soil and it won't thrive. Are they low performers in the wrong environment? Understand the why behind
Yeah.
the results. Crazy. Do you think that are we going to see more of these layoffs just in the name of AI coming up? Do
Oh,
you think that
absolutely.
it's going to? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Like, you can listen. Um, Sam Altman asked last year, January, when he was recording a podcast, he said, how long is it going to be before we have our first one person unicorn? He's asking about a $1 person billion organization. That was January of last year. Mo Gadot is in an interview with Professor Prof G just a couple of days ago, and he said we really are going to struggle when we find that 6 million individuals in the I'm sorry, 6 billion individuals around the world are unable to work. AI is going to have an impact. And that goes back to my point. I just feel like we've not done the type of service necessary around this conversation. People are going to be displaced, and there's not going to be a place for them to go. And we owe it to them to have a better and more fruitful conversation.
I love it. So, and Trent
I agree.
Trent said to Taryn's point about the perception of people being laid off. It's also why recruiters. So if you're recruiting people right now, we got to have more empathy, right? So not just look at, hey, the gaps on the resume. You got to have the nowadays. You have to have the conversation, and you can't make assumptions because if you do, you're gonna miss out on people. But it's also, put yourself in that position as well. There's a lot that's out of control right now. Steve Jobs was terminated at least once for sure. And then we said, I don't see how you can replace recruiters with AI with the relationship builders. Look, hey, recruiters, there's an assault on recruiters right now for sure in replacement of AI, which I love to talk about.
I will also say, like, it's a really hard time generally, right? Like, I think there was a study that I was reading last night about how 78% of employees are stressed about money.
Yep.
And it's like people are stressed about money, which is, huge. It's your livelihood. People are stressed because of layoffs. People, like, we're all really stressed out. And so I think now is the time where we have to have the most amount of empathy. We have to be the most transparent that we can. And if we can't provide answers, then, at least saying some words of comfort. And you never know. It could be that someone is deciding to take a mini sabbatical or a mini retirement, micro retirement, as they're talking about with Gen Z, to help combat the stress and the burnout. So I think, I think we could all just be a little bit nicer to each other.
Is this the way we thought 2025 was gonna start out? Because I thought at
Yes.
the end of 2024, a lot of people were pretty optimistic. But this is what you thought, Danielle
I
Tarn. What
think
about you?
there is a lot of hiring going on. There's also a lot of restructuring going on.
Okay, yeah.
And when you have the combination of the two, you're going to have layoffs and you're going to have hiring sprees, and we also don't know which skills we necessarily are going to need because AI and technology is changing so rapidly. We don't know which companies are going to get acquired. Like there's a lot of M&A activity going on. I think just there's so much uncertainty that the best thing that you can do as an employee is continue upskilling, continue learning, leaning into AI, leaning into content creation, where the future of media is going, paying attention to these things generally, and being able to talk about them, being the person to inform people in the room. I saw Lynn has been posting these videos, about AI, her weekly AI videos, and it's really commendable, because I think a lot of people feel really scared and feel intimidated by AI and the whole technology wave. Even I feel it, okay? And I'm in my 20s. Like, I think it's scary for a lot of us, and I think the more that we can talk about it, the more that we can learn from each other and embrace friendship, as I like to say, the more, the better off we all will become.
Yeah, 100%. Heather just said we still don't know what tools will be the most adopted either. So if you can master a set of tools and end up not being relevant to your industry, 100%. And Kurt said when you have industry leaders, companies lead at Fang, companies lead with it. It's almost like a pass for everyone to cut and save. I think we're seeing a lot of that. It's like Taran, your point earlier. It's like
Yep.
companies are so incentivized short term, but they talk a lot about long-term investment with their people. And it's like, I don't think you can, I think we're coming to a point where it's really hard to say, hey, we really care about our people, and then act in a way where you just you literally are incentivized by the the shortest of terms, right? It's like quarter profits, and all that
Yeah.
stuff, which is nothing new, but I just think we're so much more aware of it now, with, like you said, the media. And it's like, media has been democratized. A lot more people have voices now as well.
I do have a question for Torin.
Sure.
As Joel mentioned, there's so much more happening behind the scenes, and there's so much more that we understand is going on. How do you think critically when these, big headlines come out and there's really polarizing news? How do you think about and how do you investigate what's really going on behind closed doors?
Well, when you say who you are you asking as in the capacity that I'm in now, or if I were an employee? How are
Yeah,
you asking?
I'm asking in the capacity that you are now, in a way that would help, the average Joe Schmo, or Joel even,
Yeah.
understand what the underlying
The average Joe.
politics.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a number of ways, Danielle. I appreciate the question. There's a number of ways that I approach that. One that I think is extremely pressing is to really understand where the business is headed. And so, why are we making these decisions? Going back to the Workday story, they did say that they're going to invest in strategic locations. They're
Mm.
going to invest in strategic locations. While we are closing some down, we're going to invest in some of them. And D. Scott Haynes, yesterday on LinkedIn, he said that facilities management, the people that are maintaining the buildings, they should be involved in some of these conversations. So I think the first thing that I would try to do is understand, what does a strategic location look like? Where is the business going in terms of product and
Mm,
service development? Because that product and service development will absolutely help me understand what type of talent I'm going to need going forward, what type of leadership is required going forward. It will actually indicate what phase of business we may be in. Are we going to be in a hyper growth phase, even though we are laying people off? Will we find ourselves for the next 6 months in hyper growth? Will we be in a transformation phase? Because that impacts the type of talent that we should be in. Let me tell you something. When I recruited Danielle, and I've always had this philosophy, we as recruiters, more often than not, are not asking strategic questions. We're taking requisitions. We're going to run to the marketplace to find talent. But I want to slow down a little bit and find out, where are we headed? Products, services, what new communities, geographies are we going to be in? What does headcount management need to look like for 2025 and 2026? I'm not worried about 27. Just give me 2025 and 2026. Let's break that down full time and contingent and agile and compartmentalized. You get my point? I'm a
oh, yeah.
really, really business oriented, strategic thinker that is going to ask a myriad of questions to make sure that when we do what we need to do, we're doing it in a way that's thoughtful for both the organization as well as the stakeholder employees.
Mm, that was your mic drop.
I was just, yeah, no, I got my little transcriber on the side, just transcribe that. But it's the truth is as recruiters, we are not digging deep. I think HR as well, right? We talk about this a lot. Are you a business partner? Are you transactional? Are you reactive? Are you proactive? And a lot of
Indeed.
that is it's asking those right questions. But you got to know what questions to ask if you're going to ask them as well. And I think that's a huge challenge. Trent said, he said, say it louder in the back. We have as a recruiting function to get back to
Indeed.
advisory practices and not just putting the cheek in the seat. LinkedIn has noted that workforce planning is one of the top jobs growing in the future,
It is.
as well as learning development. We looked at that last week
Mhm.
as well. Well, guys, look, I hope we don't have more of these headlines each week, but I'm sure we will. Um, but why don't we move on to the Hot 100 with our friend Clark, who is back. Clark, welcome back.
Hello. Thanks for having me back. We got the Hot 100. It's been a while. But our topic today, it's kind of a perfect segue on exactly what you guys were talking about. I want to talk about the tech won't save you, your network will. I think AI, I think Posner uh, posted about this of just like having you have to have figure out the AI tools, how it can kind of, I think, ramp up your workflow. But I see Q1 and recruiting agencies and corporate recruiters, right? They're looking at their budget, they're buying a lot of tech, maybe they're buying AI and the operator and ChatGPT and Claude and whatever else. But I've seen this for years now. Buying more tech won't fix your operations, or it won't fix kind of what really needs to be fixed. Which for a lot of people is more refining their approach and just, I think what you were saying of just like thinking strategically. That is one of the things that when I work with recruiters, I have them take a step back and get away from the rat race and the hamster wheel of just like go go go, making calls, filling recs, and like where is the value? Like first thing we cover is like what's your value prop? What are you bringing to the table? Because you have to understand yourself, your solution, the business that you want more of, and then what your market wants to see from you, but also what how your competitors are reaching out to your market. And if you don't really understand those things, getting more tech or just posting AI content, all it's going to do is scale a foundation that's unclear to your market. And I think for whether you're on the job market, whether you're actively working, whatever it else, you want to look at building your network, building your ecosystem. That's why I'm an adamant proponent of automation and content marketing, but you want to do it with intentionality and being strategic. And if the reason you're buying tech and not doing those things is, well, I don't know what to say, or what if I get rejected? It's like that's the stuff that you want to be figuring out, because people aren't trusting what they're seeing on the screen a lot or the AI. So it's like focus on the relationships and focus on knowing that people are going to want more authenticity as there's more AI. And so focus on that. And that's where the winning is going to take place, and you can kind of keep yourself safe and away from kind of what could be a tough environment to navigate.
Dude, 100%. Like, this is something that I felt like at TA Week and then some of these other events I've been to. RecFest obviously was at the end of last year. Um, I noticed that there are people who have built really, really strong networks by, like you said, giving value. And then I also noticed a lot of vendors who were like really trying to sell. And it's funny when you see those types of when you see it in that environment, right? You got people who are looking to give, they're looking to push whatever it is that they're looking to push. And then you have other people, I think Tara and you mentioned this earlier, off air as well, where you're using your platform now to elevate others, which is extremely valuable. And I also think too, networking, it's funny, I'm on TikTok all the time and I see people giving network tips, and it's literally become templated messages, quick connection, but we've lost that vision of like, hey, what are you giving? And then do you have like a long-term vision? Like, are you in it with people for the long haul versus a short term, like, hey, I'm in and I'm out, right? Which you see with a lot of like point solutions where you want to build something and sell it really, really quickly. So I'd be curious to hear from you guys, like in terms of like what actually is networking, and what isn't it, right?
Yeah, so Joel, I wonder, and this is actually for the entire group. But when you think about like Gary Vee, he's got a book. I think it's Left, Left, Left Jab or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah.
So I'm curious, do either of you, any of you have a formula for how you decide to network? I know for me, when people reach out on LinkedIn, I try to get in a relatively a short period of time to say, number one, thank you for connecting. Number two, what prompted you to connect with me? And then number three, how can I be of value? Or if you feel that I can be of value, don't hesitate to reach out. That typically is my response to brand new connections. From the very, very beginning, I want them to see that I'm going to do everything that I can to give to them. And I will also say to you that I'm not a good networker. I'm not a good networker in the sense of prodding my network and asking them for support. So even though I've been in business now 27 years, I'm still learning how to do a better job of querying and pinging my network to support me. I'm looking at Alynn's beautiful face that's on the screen. I literally sent her a message yesterday in reference to our next report. Alynn has never gotten a message like that from me. And we've been friends close to a decade. So I'm just trying to get better about that. So I'm curious, do any of you have a
Ugh.
formula for networking?
When you
I
like,
yeah, Joel.
how many people actually take you up? Like when you have that message where like, hey, if I can be of value of you, how many people are taking you up on that? Or like, what's the response to that?
Yeah, you're fading a little bit, but I think you said how many people take me up on it. And I would say
Yeah.
probably 30, 40%, because one, it catches them off guard. You know, they're not really expecting me to say, how can I help you? You know, a lot of times people are reaching out to me, Joel, because they saw me speak, or yeah, they probably saw me speak somewhere and they're just wanting to connect, and they think it's, you know, sort of a ships passing in the night type thing. But no, I'm like, look, we got work to do. And if I can help you in getting that work done, then I want to help you. Like Clark said, I want to help you. So maybe 30, 40%.
I would say, I actually did a video about this with the Muse, which was about the difference between networking versus relationship building. And I think, Torin, what you're talking about is actually relationship building. How do I provide value for you with no other intention other than providing value and building this relationship and helping each other and finding ways that we can mutually help each other. And for me, I think I've actually sent similar messages uh, to you, but I'm not as consistent with it as I'd like to be. But I will say, when I'm thinking about like conferences and brands that I want to work with, you know, as a content creator, I'm thinking, you know, what are the brands that are going to transform, for example? And I'm thinking, oh, how can I build relationships with those marketers, not only with the intention of, you know, getting a brand deal, because that's the short term, but really, what's the intention for the long game? Where do I see this company going in the next few years? How do I want to support them? How do I want to be in their story of how, you know, when they succeed and when they're a bigger company or when they get acquired, how do I want to look back and reflect and say I was part of that? And I think that's really how I think about my relationships and the types of relationships that I'm trying to build, especially in my early career, because I'm only at the beginning of this. And I wish, and that's why I talk about this online. I wish more young professionals were thinking in that more long-term strategic way, because it's upsetting to me to see most of my peers kind of think about networking as this, you know, thing that you only do when you're looking for a job or when you need something from people. And similarly to you, Torin, I'm not very good at asking for things. And it was only this year that I really started to ask people for things, or ask people for meetings, and ask them for their time, because I'm really trying to push my business along and I'm trying to grow and evolve. And I think that's part of the whole process. But yeah, I think it's a critical skill that sadly it's an art form that is maybe not taught enough.
Well, I don't think it's taught really, because I don't remember being taught really this in college. But what you just said, Danielle, is you started reaching out to your network because you're trying to push something and you're trying to create something and build something. And I think that's almost when you get the confidence to kind of then start asking for people and having those conversations. And that's like kind of the first thing I tell people is like, just start to try to produce something, try to understand where your value is first. I think you've understood
Mm.
that. And now you're trying to push that agenda forward, which is great. And then you're going to find and talk to people that are relating to you or at different phases in their mission. But, maybe it's an older mentor that's like loving your mission and wants to help you, and they're going to guide you along. Maybe it's someone the same age that's kind of doing something parallel. You guys can tag team and kind of partner up on
Mhm.
some stuff, but you're taking the action to figure something out first. And to me, that's the relationship building. My network and my relationships and have grown exponentially since I started producing content and sharing what I know and sharing what I've learned and sharing what I also don't know and I am figuring out. Like putting myself out there has made people way more receptive to building a relationship with me. And I'm not then expecting something immediately in return. I really have no expectations. I think that's the other secret because I'm just focused on my mission. I'm like, oh, you vibe with this too. Like you're trying to solve these problems. Like, well, let's talk more. And
Mm.
it's kind of like there's different levels of some people you might talk to once, hey, and that's okay. And then some people it's like, hey, we got to keep talking and keep
Mhm.
working on this, and that's good too. And I think we'll talk about the automation, the content just drives the volume. And if you're intentional about it, you give yourself more opportunities, and you don't always have to ask for help. Sometimes it's actually you kind of want to save those cards until you actually need it. And I think it's good to keep that in mind, not forcing it and allowing things to be organic as well.
Mhm.
But Joe, you have a frenetic pace. As a recruiter, as a content creator, you keep a different rhythm in your day to day. So I'm curious to hear from you. How do you allocate time that you can move away from requisitions and closing out opportunities, putting the camera down or not writing? How do you find time, Joel, to network and or deepen relationships?
Yeah, I appreciate that. No, I think for me, like texting and just constant communication with people over time has been really key. And so what I mean about that is it's like I have clients, I have relationships I've built over the last 5 to 10 years. I just have people on my phone that I will check in with regularly with text messages, little messages, right? And then there's levels to those conversations. So I may have someone where I'll check in and say, "Hey, how's everything going? How are those recs going? How are you doing as a person?" And maybe they respond like, "Hey, it's actually been kind of tough." Now I know I got to take that to a longer conversation. So, I think it's just whether it's content, whether it's brand, whether it's networking, it's consistency over time. And I think this is where like the value of AI uh, or where there's value that we have over AI is we can build relationships over time and we can see vision. Where AI is very transactional, right? Anyone can blast out 100 automated messages over the next week. Not everybody can not blast. Not everyone can keep that consistency over a decade. Okay,
Mhm.
so AI is not going to come in and build a stronger relationship than I have with Clark. It's not going to happen. And so, and I've noticed this more and more, especially at conferences, you start to see the ecosystem of relationships that have been built over a decade. That's not something that's going to be replaceable by technology. I think technology is great for like some tasks, but I think with relationship building, and so for me, it's always been like that. Like my wife tells me all the time, "How do you have all these friends?" And I'm like, "Because I put in the work, man. I spend time to reach out to people and
Yeah.
ask them." She's like, "Well, nobody calls me." And I'm like, "Yeah, no one calls me either. I'm always reaching out to people though, because I'm okay with the fact that in this world we're distracted, and I'm okay to be that person reaching out." And I think a lot of people though they want to be the person that's reached out to, and a lot of times you have to be the one taking initiative and action, even though it's uncomfortable because sometimes people don't answer my phone call and then I'll text them 10 times. Evan White can attest to that. But it's building that. So,
No ego, amigo.
hey, I'm used to being rejected. I'm a recruiter. But guys,
It's great.
this is a great segment, Clark. Good to have you back on the
Yeah, thanks for
show.
having me.
Thanks, Clark.
Thanks,
We're
Clark.
actually going to
Great
transition
conversation.
into the event roundup where we're going to be talking about this networking. So, Danielle, what do we have?
I needed to wait for that Correct. That
Uh,
there's no better lead up than that. All right. So, as you saw, we have the event roundup sponsored by Transform. And we'll be highlighting Transform events all February. So, make sure to tune in at this time every week or sooner. So, let's go. 2025, we have Transform from March 17th to the 19th at the Wynn in Las Vegas. We have some numbers for you. Can we
how many
pull
days
up?
away is this, too? Can we get like a day
We
countdown?
should
We need
get
a
a day count. That's a great
Ben,
idea.
calling Ben in the back.
Paging Ben. So we have 4,000 attendees,
Wow.
100 investors, 500 plus startups, 350 world-class speakers, yours truly included, 50 plus countries represented, and last but not least, our very own Torrin Ellis is the MC.
Let's
And
go.
yeah, let's go. Adam will be there
Yeah,
at
forget
the
Adam.
greenhouse booth. Yeah, whatever. I will be on a stage. It will be absolutely epic. I don't know if we have those graphics up, but if we could put them up here. Yeah. How pumped are we, Torin?
Bad will be the day for any man or woman when they become absolutely contented with the thoughts that they are thinking, the
Mm.
deeds that they are doing, the life that they are living, when forever beating at their soul is some great desire to do something more, to be more, to live more, to give more, to care more. Because after all, they are a child of the Most High God. I promise you, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to being there. And I'm going to use every single moment that I have on stage to challenge individuals to wrestle with what it means to be human. So you're right. Ben, put up a counter because I'm promising you, we are going to change the frequency in that atmosphere on March 17th, 18th, 19th. And you will feel that presence even when you get back to your office. I'm looking forward to it.
Hmm. Is that
Come
how we're gonna
on.
start? Are we gonna do some poetry at the beginning? I feel like that'd be pretty cool.
Listen, you know I'm unpredictable, so
I know.
I can just assure you that there is only one MC that rocks the way that TE does, and
I
so
love that.
whatever we do, it will be memorable.
And Torrin,
Oh,
you've been there for 4 years in a row. So like, we got 4,000 attendees this year. Like, what's that growth evolution been? Because I only went last year, so I haven't seen the full evolution. Um, what's it been like through the years at Transform? Like, why Transform?
Yeah, so first and foremost, last year was the first time that I met Danielle in person. We were standing outside of one of the rooms and
mhm.
she shared something with me and I said, I got you. And so that's what we've been doing for the last 12 months to see if we can bring some of that I got you to fruition.
Mm,
What I will tell you is that every event is different. I go to each of these events because there's something about the event that is captivating. And in this particular instance, I just enjoy being around so many incredible founders, people with an idea, a spark, someone who said, I can do this better, or our world is missing this. And so I enjoy being in a capacity or in a space where I'm sharing it with individuals that are saying, let's envision how we might be able to make situations better for stakeholders, for shareholders, and others. So for me, that's what Transform is really about. It's those founders, if you will.
Mm.
500 startups there as well. It is. I mean, it's amazing to see all the tech, hear those stories, and I think Danielle, you were mentioning earlier about like how you work with brands. One of the biggest things I found in working with brands, people ask me like, how do you choose the brands you work with? It always comes down to the people and not the tech, because the
People.
tech can change and evolve, but the people behind the tech, that I think matters way more. And
Yep.
we're gonna be doing a Purple Acorn live show. We did a live show last week at TA Week. We're going to be doing it. I believe we're going to be doing it from the desk at Transform, which, I mean, they've
Wait a minute,
got
what does that
amazing.
mean? What does that mean? What does the desk mean?
The desk is it's like Samara's got the setup. It's like a proper new setup. They got the production. You get makeup. I mean,
It's gonna be
a
fun.
full get up. So we're gonna be doing the Purple Acorn live show,
Love that.
or the HR morning show live. So we're excited. Hopefully that's confirmed. If it's not, Evan's like scrambling right now to make sure that happens. But we're excited. I'm excited. I think it's gonna be a great time. Obviously, seeing everybody in real life as well. And Evan said, "What? It's about a month away." So
I feel like you
amazing.
should have like a hot takes booth, like a
Yeah.
hot takes. You sit down in like a comfy chair and
Spicy takes.
you stare at a camera and you just share a spicy take. I feel like that'd be good content.
It
Any
would.
brand that wants to
Yeah, if you want
reach out.
spicy takes, Danielle is gonna set up a booth for that,
Yeah,
and you're gonna pay for that. Okay, sponsors.
and pay big for that.
Amazing. Well, talking about spicy takes, I know we have one coming up here with the global report. So let's cue the global report. Let's cue the global report. I actually can't do anything.
Smooth.
I'm not in production, so I can't do much here. The global report. Lynn, welcome.
Hello, Joel. How are you?
I'm good. Last time we spoke, you were in Paris, but I see you're home.
I'm home. I'm home from Madrid, where I was last week.
Ooh, awesome. What was going on in Madrid? Get us up to speed.
So Madrid for us was our huge company kickoff for the year. A little bit more than kickoff. A little bit about 400, a little bit over 400 people.
Amazing.
Massive event in Madrid to reframe everything.
Did you go to a Real Madrid soccer game when you were there?
No, I didn't leave the hotel. I could have been in any. I could have been in any country, any hotel, anywhere.
Oh man! Well, I saw some pictures. I saw some of the content. Look like a ton of fun, and it looks like you guys were just on the news as well, right? Rebecca was on.
She was on CNBC, and I actually just got a hot take that in a month or so we may see her on BBC World. So,
ooh.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. So, all right. So we're talking about spicy hot takes. So maybe I need to sync up with Danielle, but sounds like you've got one for us, right?
I do have some spicy hot takes. So I just said I told you we were just in Madrid and we were setting up where we're going for this next year. So transparently, listen, Smart Recruiters has been in the ATS game for a while.
Yeah.
And we've been really taking a look at where we need to go and what the world needs at this moment. And I think we've walked out very clearly with the gauntlet that says the ATS is dead, guys. It doesn't exist anymore, and it shouldn't exist anymore. And let's talk about why. We believe it's time for recruiting AI, and there's a good reason for that. And it is something different. It's not the same thing. So there we go. There you go. Your spicy hot take is from an ATS, a previous ATS vendor telling you the ATS is dead and gone. We have to move forward.
Okay. All right. So let's break this down. First of all, recruiting AI. What are we talking about here, right? Because walk me through that. What does that mean?
Yeah. So I think I have to start by explaining what it's not, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's where we've been up until this point, right? The ATS was created as a digital filing cabinet, right? In its early days, it was about how do we take these paper processes and put them in some sort of format so we can drive compliance, get all of our government reporting done effectively, right? And manage the process. And then over time, we got savvy and said, hey, we can make this process better for people, or we needed to do other things. So everybody did it. We started adding on all this crap to it, right? We took what inherently is a very simple process at its core, which is connecting people to jobs, right? So finding out what role you need to fill, going and finding the right group of people who might be relevant for that, sealing the deal, finding the right person and getting them in their seat and doing the job, right? That's in essence what recruiting is supposed to be about and what we're supposed to focus on. But we created all of this stuff around it that overcomplicated the whole process.
Well, I was going to say, if you talk to job seekers and you said, is the process easier now than 20 years ago? nobody is saying yes.
Nobody's saying yes. Nobody's saying yes. And this is just the nature of how technology evolves, right? And when we think we're putting new things in place to make things easier, we just end up adding more and more complexity, right? Like, oh, it didn't do what we wanted to here, so let's put this other add-on over here, and then let's put this other add-on over here. It gets big and huge and complex. So if we blow that all up and we say, listen, at its core, it's about these key conversations that need to be supported by the right decision intelligence, right? And the right moments in time to help us progress and move those conversations forward. That's what recruiting AI is. Recruiting AI is saying, listen, we now have the technology to get rid of all of this background crap that we created and instead create the right layer of interaction, insert the right moments of decision support for people who are actually in the process. And I'm going to say another little hot take here. Part of that may also mean you don't need an entire crew of recruiting professionals in the background of your organization trying to manage your process. If you've got really good advisors helping support you and decision support in your flow of work that helps you execute it. So moving from an ATS to a recruiting AI is about looking at how do we insert those right moments of engagement and intelligence in your flow of work and stop worrying about this back end system that's managing all this data and process and workflow. Let's automate all that stuff. The AI can do that crap for us. You guys don't want, nobody wants to do it anyway. If anybody's raising their hand out there saying,
I know a couple nerds that love that stuff.
Yeah, okay.
A handful, like 2.
Great. Okay. Well, let's bring those 2 on and help them down and help program the AI because the rest of us don't want to do that anymore, right? We want to have real conversations. We want to be engaging with individuals and we want to be progressing and moving ourselves forward. So let's set up the situations to do that. That's where we're headed towards, right? Now, listen, I see a great comment in here from Heather. You're right. A good ATS does do pipeline management. Well, okay, I can debate that. Most ATSs don't do pipeline management really well, right? That's a false narrative. But if you've got a good CRM and an ATS that are combined today, you probably have some early forms of pipeline management and engagement that are happening there.
Yeah.
You don't need that back end system to be the front and center of your process to manage that. If you have a good AI infrastructure on top of that layer, you can be actually having robust searches inside that CRM that are producing relevant candidates without you having to go and hunt and peck. You can be updating and managing that pipeline effectively. If anybody here is willing to actually raise their hand and say they're doing a fabulous job managing their CRM and their ATS pipeline and keeping people warm and being able to have relevant candidates over a long period of time. Yeah, listen, I've been in this game for over a decade now. Nobody's doing it well. And the reason we're not doing it well is because our systems aren't built for that, right? Our systems are built for capture, collect at volume, and push out on demand.
Yeah.
Recruiting AI allows us to put intelligence on top of that and do it smarter, better, keep things engaged, keep people warm, have real engagement happening. That's where we need to go.
So talent leaders who are out there approaching 2025, we're still early. What is your advice and like what should they be looking for? And like let's say they're looking at implementing a new ATS, right? They're in that stage of the process. Like what would be your thought process? What advice would you have for them?
So I'm gonna say 2 things. It may sound a little, again, I get spicy all over the place on this, but I'm very passionate about, right? The first thing I'm gonna say is ask yourself the question, why do you think you need it? Right? And start at the basics and say, if I could do it in a different way, if I didn't have to do it the way we've always done it before, if I could use all of my understanding and knowledge about the human condition and how to help people connect better and how to help find relevance in work and do all of those things, that was why I said I got into this in the first place. How would I design this process? Start there. Once you do that, then work backwards and say, what are the solutions that are going to help me do that as close as possible? What are the ones that are going to innovate me to there? Because if you're out there trying to be faster, more efficient, doing the same things. I have a big talk out there I do frequently on the road that says, listen, if your job is about building faster horses, you're missing the game, right? It's time to start building the Model T. And the Model T says, listen, we can do this in a different way altogether. So start with your process, start with your thinking, then frame out what types of vendors and solutions are going to help you get there, because they're there, they're ready, it's time, right? The moves are being made. If you are looking at vendors today or solutions today that are just adding AI over the top or putting one little piece in over here and putting one little piece in over there, it's not going to get you where you need to go. The rails of how the software has to be built are completely different from how they were built before. And you need to be thinking about what you want it to do in the future, not necessarily how you want it to improve what your today looks like. And that's a hard ask, right? That means a little
That's hard.
reflection and some time we need to spend together having real honest conversations about all the shit that we built and process we are like clinging on to. This is the way it has to be done. And we have to have an honest conversation with ourselves and say, what could I let go of?
Yeah.
What could I do differently? And it's okay. And I did the best. There's that, those of you who've been through enough therapy, I have, right? We have those moments where we have to go, I did the best with the knowledge and the tools I had at the time. Allow yourself to have that moment and then move forward. Do something better. We have the opportunity. Let's make tech work for us instead of work against us.
Yeah, 100%. Look, and that type of thinking, though, hey, we've always done things this way and we need to do something different. That is a challenge within business, right? And being able to build that case as well. Advice for people like when they are building that case with their leadership team around them as well. Like, how are you approaching it? Is it more data? Is it digging into the data? Are there sources of information that you would recommend that people go to as well, just to get envision for this type of change?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is you have to realize you're going to have to talk the language of the people who are going to give you the dollars to move forward, right? So accept that, right? And understand that you've got to go in, figure out what is it you want, right? How do you want this to look? Go out and look outside of our industry. Look at other things going on. Read up on what technology can and can't do. See what other people are trying. Use them as case studies and analogies for how you can move your business process, your business design, your strategy design forward. And then build your business case from there. And then, stack your business case with a whole lot of real passionate, I got this, here we go. Be confident in there, stand up confident. I tell people every day, sometimes it's about showing up and saying it really loudly, even if you don't really feel it in your boots yet, right? Because people are looking for someone to follow. Be that business leader who's sitting there making a decision on whether or not to move forward with your vision, to fund you and to move you forward. They're making it at two levels. The first level is obviously the rational level, which says, give me the business case and the dollars and show me that this isn't crazy, right? You can do that. There are millions of different methodologies we can talk about. They're going to help you build a business case, right? That's business 101.
Yeah.
But that's not going to cross you over the line. What's going to cross you over the line is, can you speak confidently rooted in your boots with a strong tone that says, I have a vision for how we're going to move forward, and be confident enough to say, and I don't have all the answers yet, but we're going to figure out how we build them together.
Yeah.
That's
Love that.
a lot of what I'm doing right now is going out there and talking to TA leaders, talking to people who are trying to be at the innovation side, go to the next direction, start talking about recruiting AI, moving to these new spaces, and helping them find their confidence and their voice to say, I can be at the front of this. I can be out there. If you follow at this point, this is my next big spicy take. I'll say this with a really strong voice. If you're waiting for someone else to do it first to see how it looks and then copy it so that you feel safe, you will lose. You will fall behind, because we don't have time for that anymore. The pace of change is too fast. It's moved too far, going farther and faster than you can keep up with. And by the time you're copying somebody else, they're on to the next thing, and you're not going to survive in that climate. I don't know how got on that track from the ATS thing, but
Well, you didn't
Okay.
mention this, but I'm gonna mention it, and Danielle
Yeah.
mentioned it earlier. I would definitely I would follow Alin. If you're not following Alin, if you're not connected, I would follow her. You're putting out content every single day. It's not memes, okay? This is like in-depth AI thought leadership. So if you're not following Alin, follow Alin, because I think it is important to follow people, but you follow people for the inspiration, right? To get down those rabbit holes so you can start to craft your own thoughts. And I think you're doing an excellent job leading that way. What events are you going to? Where are we going to see you next? Because I'm not used
Well,
to this background.
I know you're not used to seeing me at home, right? Yeah. So next place, actually, I'm going to see you. We're going to be at Transform, and
Amazing.
you may not know this yet, but we're going to do something fun together.
Oh yeah,
Something up.
I'm ready.
A little
ready.
all in for AI. That's my little teaser. Wait for next week. We've got something cool happening. We're gonna have some fun
Sweet.
together.
Love it. I love it. Well, guys, like I said before, if you are not following Alin, go follow Alin on LinkedIn. Go to it's smartrecruiters.com, right? That's
Yeah,
where.
smart. It's so simple. Smartrecruiters.com.
Not smartrecruiters.io. I don't know. Everyone seems to have an IO, but
I don't understand that. Yeah, no.
but smartrecruiters.com, follow Alin, and then guys, I would say my thought around AI is you just play around, you figure things out, and like you said, I love that. Like, don't wait for others. Like, be bold, test things out, figure out what's going to work for your org, and I love that. So
Yeah.
amazing session. Smartrecruiters.com. Get there, connect with Alin, and we will see you next week.
Sounds great. Talk to you next week, guys.
All right, bye. Bye. Such calming music. All right. Well, guys, look, this show would not be possible without our friends over at Erin. So, guys, if you don't know Erin is a leading employee referral app, I guess, even technology. Software is SaaS. Okay, so we're cool. But they had over 1 million referrals, guys. And I always say this: if your employees are happy and they love your job because you created a great environment, you should be seeing employee referrals. We also know that employee referral programs are a pain. They're tough to put together. So Erin makes it really, really simple. They're always doing amazing things. They're working with some of the largest companies. They also have the coolest branding here. You can see the sloth. If you got a sloth, you got to raise the sloth. We got shirts. That's my favorite one right there, the sloth. Tarn, you got red shoes, right?
I do. I absolutely have my Pumas. I sure do.
Got the Pumas. Look, and we were just at TA week. Everybody was rocking out the Pumas.
Everybody.
Pretty sure they thought we were just a shoe store. Like, people were like, what do you guys do? I'm like, red Pumas. Do you want a pair? But we love the Erin team, and you guys can download the white paper, which they went live, I think, 2 weeks ago. Mike and Evan did, to just discuss this. But if you want to download the white paper of how you can get 1 million referrals, so you could cut costs on staffing and recruitment, check out that. You can download that with the QR code. And I think we are going to play something here in just a moment. Why don't we play that? That's secure. Amazing. And look, guys, we don't have the QR code for that, but if you go to aaronapp.com/shoes, Mike Staffy made that website in like 6 hours. So you can go there, check that out, get your own red shoes as well. And guys, like, when we were making that video, a lot of people were looking at us like, "What are these?" Like, we were like, especially that one where we're like moving
It was
slowly.
the dad jeans, bruh. It was the dad jeans, man. That's what it
Dad
was.
jeans and the
I mean,
Pumas.
you look. We just got to call it what it was. It was everybody was rocking dad jeans. Like nobody had swag in the joint. I mean, the shoes
I
were
know,
tight,
man.
but come on.
I got it. Look, I will rock the dad jeans, proud dad over here. But
Warren, you got to show them how to style.
well,
No,
that's what we
you
need.
know what? I'm with Joel. Proud dad. I love the picture you put up after TA week, sitting with the children. Beautiful,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
beautiful,
cute.
beautiful. Because you cannot get those
yeah.
moments back. But yeah, we can put a little bit of flavor in the way that we put that style on. You understand?
Well, maybe that's what we need for the next Aaron booth. We need you there, and you just
You
can
need
rate
the
the
rest of the
style.
outfit.
And tell Mike to call me. Tell Mike
I
stop
will.
playing with y'all amateurs. Tell Mike to call me.
Maybe we
But
need like leather jackets next.
Yes.
look, as you guys could tell, I am not like in any way like an icon when it comes to anything stylish. So
So
you got what
I'm
you
just
got.
messing with you. I'm just messing with you because of the soccer moms and your hats at the beginning of the show. That's all.
No, I love it, man. I love it.
If
Well,
you
look,
got red shoes, shout out in the comments.
yeah, we got Nikki said she's got red shoes, gonna wear
Yeah.
hers at Transform. Yeah, if you haven't got the red shoes, Evan, get in the chat and put that link in the chat somehow on all of our lives for those red shoes. You got to get a pair. But we had fun there. It was a good time. And yeah, so get that QR code. Let's get that white paper. But guys, let's move on to the next session here. We got a special guest calling in.
Hello, hello. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi. We are here, if you do not know who Anna Morgan is, with your career BFF. I
That's
freaking love
me.
that.
Thank you.
So, for anyone who does not know who you are and what you do best, please would you share with the room?
Absolutely. I'm Anna Morgan, known as the Career BFF. I own Career BFF LLC, where I do recruiting, coaching, and consulting. And I recently hosted my own little event too. So I'm adding event planner to my title as well.
Heck yeah. Event, there must be a better word for that. We'll come up with aficionado maybe.
Yeah.
And Nikki says the queen of career BFF. Love that. I am so curious to hear how Evolve went. So for anyone who doesn't know what Evolve was, what it is, what it will become, would you mind sharing a little bit more about what that was like and
Yeah,
what the mission
absolutely.
was?
So I've spent the last, I would say, year and a half, 2 years going to different conferences and soaking up all the knowledge and networking, building relationships, and loved it. And especially since COVID, I have built the majority of my friendships and people I look up to, virtually here on LinkedIn. And I was coming up on celebrating my 50th birthday, which is a big milestone, and just
Happy
had this
birthday.
download like, what could I create to celebrate this milestone, but also bring in town all my, connections for business, learning, and then stay for the party. So that was the simple idea. And I've planned events pretty much my entire career, in person and virtual, as far as building community. And this was just a new challenge. I've been inspired by Craig Fisher with Talent Net, who's hosted smaller events, and so this was small, intimate, about 75 attendees, about 18 speakers, one location, and we had a ball. It was super fun, very focused on self care, thought leadership, and branding, as well as TA and HR innovation from an AI and tech perspective. So, yeah.
I love that. So tell me a little bit more about what it really took to put on this live event. Like I personally have done some in-person events. I've done lots of online community building and conferences, but
Yeah.
never have I ever put on a live event for TA and HR people in person. I think it was in Atlanta, right?
It was in Atlanta, and I did it in like less than 90 days. I
That's
made the
wild.
announcement on Black Friday that I'm like, "Hey, I'm having a conference. Get the Black Friday deal." And it was like
Wow.
crickets. Nobody like really woke up until after Christmas, essentially. And yeah, I just took messy freaking fast action. And like you guys were talking about before, all that social currency and relationship building and networking, you know, well, like you said, you wish that your younger generations were more intentional about their networking, right? Because they only show up and ask for things when they need something, right? And so all of these relationships and collaborations and community that I built over the past 5 years, I was able to then kind of phone a friend and call in, hey, I'm having this event. Would you be willing to come to Atlanta and share your expertise? Would you be interested in sponsoring? And then it was almost serendipitous how it all came together, from the location being available to, fast action with sponsors and
Mhm.
then ticket sales. So I was really, really lucky, along with just the amazing group of speakers that said yes. Like Nikki Russell was like, I'll be there to support you. And that's everything. Having community like that is just the entire world.
100%. And yeah, Nikki is sounding off in the comments. I love a supportive bestie.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what was there something specific that you learned or that surprised you about hosting this event and sort of the experience of people coming together?
Yeah, I mean, there were lots of lessons learned. Overall, like the feedback has been phenomenal. Are there definitely tweaks if I decide to do this again next year? Absolutely, that I could make, from more diversity in the speakers, maybe more practitioners versus entrepreneurs. A comfort monitor for the speakers so they can see what they're doing. Like I just didn't think
Mm,
about little things like that. I tried to have a timer, but that never worked. To I'm trying to think what else. I mean, there were little minor things, like the food was great, the music was good, the space was lovely. I'll probably look at doing two days next year, so there can be a little bit more time for intentional networking, because I was like, militant on the agenda with that many speakers. I learned that events can be pricey, but I really allowed like just my creativity to come out in all areas of this event, from
mm,
the topics that I loved, like personal branding and employer branding, having sponsors like Happy Dance and Team Taylor be on board, to, working with HR practitioners on how to, vet benefits even better through the partnership with BrightPath. So, and then it was fun. There was, dance music and walk-on songs, and an elevated and fun happy hour immediately following the event. So really tried to keep it very seamless and easy for people to stick around and build community.
I love that. And it's interesting because I posted something a few days ago about the intentionality when it comes to events and how people aren't there to be pitched, right? But it's, at the same time, as an event, programmer now and lead,
Yeah,
you have to get sponsors. Like events are really pricey, and so how do you rethink what that pitch looks like? And what it seems like stood out from what I saw on the internet about Evolve is
yeah.
that the conversations were really centered and rooted in things that people wanted to talk about, and
Hmm.
like a very from a very holistic approach, which is, I think, where a lot of people want to be heading when it comes
Hmm.
to HR and benefits and, personal branding and all
And taking
those
care
things.
of ourselves, like the intention behind it was like, one, HR and TA people, you guys are badasses. Remember that. Like, I know that we've been through a S storm the last year and a half, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. Like, take a moment, come in, like, reflect on the work that you do, and then also get some tools in your tool belt so you can, be better, be more efficient, and be whole yourself. That was the intention behind it. One thing that I look to solve, and you're experiencing this as you're getting out into conferences and whatnot, it can be one, overwhelming, and not everyone is an extrovert like you and I that will walk and be like, "Hi,
Mhm.
I'm Anna," or you don't have a dog and then everyone just comes talks to you because you
There
bring
you
Lily.
go.
Um,
So you're going to be renting dogs out to people, right?
right, right. Best networking tool ever. Don't tell anyone. But I assigned seats the very first part of the conference
Mm.
because I wanted to solve stop talking to all the same people. Like, you came here to network, let's network. The most magic and I feel like innovation comes when we put ourselves outside of our typical vacuum and traditional lanes, and just see what ripple effect kind of collaborations can happen from unlikely connections, right?
Yeah.
So, I had a little woo woo on the stage. I had, again, Judy Fox talking about newsletters, which if
Love
you're in
Judy
EA,
Fox.
I love Judy Fox as well.
Yeah.
Shout out Fox Rocks. If you, want me to make an introduction so she can join you sometime, I'm happy to do that. But it's little things like that, bringing in voices that would have been on a social media marketing stage, not necessarily on a TA or HR stage.
It's such a great point, and it's actually something that I've seen more communities of interest that are coming to the conferences. I'll give an example. Culture Amp, big shout out. They have a massive community that spans countries and cities, and it's really incredible what they've built. But one of the things that's so amazing is that at these conferences like Transform, they schedule a meetup for their
Yes.
members to just
Yeah.
meet other people at the conference and create a
Amazing.
safe space, and also create this, like, I went to the one last year because I was a first timer at Transform, and now that I'm going back, I'm like, oh, I will not go without going to this Culture Amp meetup, because it creates this intentionality, right? It's
Mhm.
like you're actually reflecting on, why am I here? What am I
Mhm.
looking to get out of this? Who do I
Yes.
want to meet? And then you're
Right.
also sharing that with the room. And what's so beautiful is, like you said, those magical connections that can just happen
Mhm.
out of nowhere,
Right.
and out of that randomness of just sitting at the same table with someone.
Yeah. And it's amazing, like what RecFest and Transform and some of these bigger conferences have been able to do, like 100 Vesters, 500 startups. Like, that's just mind blowing,
Wild.
And I'm interested to, shout out to Samara, as far as what she's built, and Kara, what she's done with TA Week as well. It's just super impressive. And, just putting on the little conference, tiny conference that I did, definitely have even more respect for what goes on behind the scenes to pull something like that off.
Yeah, 100%. So what's next for you?
Well, I was talking about that with my business coach this morning. Right now, I'm honestly like still coming off of like the
Yeah.
pink cloud high adrenaline from all of this, because I mean, somebody said, well, won't your team be doing this? And I'm like, yes, the team of one,
Yeah.
the tech person, the marketing person, the photographer. So I'm in the process right now. I'm like, going through all my receipts, kind of getting a good understanding of my P&L, how I did with the event. And then, what's next? I'm probably going to launch a podcast to continue elevating the TA and HR and job search community.
Heck yeah.
And looking at, building this out and starting, I'm like, this is going to be so fun. I have a whole year to plan this, not 89 days. So I would definitely be on the lookout for Evolve 2.0 in
Love it.
2026. So you and the Purple Acorn folks are welcome. And, hopefully I can earn my pair of red shoes by then.
Oh, 100%. You being here, you've already earned it.
Thank
The
you.
second
Thank you.
time.
I
All right.
appreciate it.
Well, where can people find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is where I spend the majority of my time. I did build a business page for the Evolve TA and HR experience. So if you want to stay in the know of all those activities and what's coming in the future, definitely hit the follow button there. Otherwise, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I look forward to, supporting, celebrating, and engaging there on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Anna Morgan, everyone. Thank you so much for coming back. And I think next we're going to show a little bit of a sizzle from our comedy show at
Love
TA
it.
Week.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing.
It's happening tonight. Laugh Factory San Diego. We got the bus. All these people are headed to the factory. Let's do this.
That was a lot of fun. Ben is a comedic genius. I laughed the whole time. So Ben, kudos to you. Good job. But I want to jump into the HR weather. And today I'm going to talk about something that might not be popular. It might be a spicy take. I want to talk about career coaches and how I believe career coaches has turned into a scam. And I think in 2025, it's only going to get worse. So here's the problem. Job seekers are paying thousands for AI generated resumes for coaching and advice from so called experts. So I took the time, researched 20 that I found on LinkedIn, and here's what I found 40% had not held a job for more than 1 year, 80% had never worked in talent acquisition. So small sample size, but it should give you a picture of what's out there. And here's the reality: these aren't career coaches, they're really salespeople. They don't know your industry, they don't know what TAHR looks for in a resume. In most cases, they give you horrible advice that actually hurts you in your job search process, like trying to circumvent the ATS and all that BS. So the results for job seekers is candidates, they get stuck in job search purgatory. They waste time, they waste money, while chat GPT generated profiles just flood the market as we're seeing right now. So, for job seekers listening or anyone looking at career coaches, before you hand over your hard earned cash, ask yourself, like, who's actually doing the work? Do they have real hiring experience? Not if they've hired once or they've been a hiring manager. Do they really know how the process, how the systems work? And can they prove they're worth it? So don't get scammed. I know the career coaching industry is unregulated, and I think it shows. If I'm wrong, please in the comments. I want to be set straight because I hate to generalize, but from what I've seen, there's not many good ones. There is some, so don't get scammed. That's the HR weather. Let's get back to the panel.
Wow.
Spicy take, Danielle. What
Very
do you think about
spicy,
career coaching?
Serge.
It's not spicy to me. I think it's honest. I mean, I get messages all the time from folks that are 25 saying that they can coach me, and I'm like, what are I have nothing against a 25-year-old, but exactly what are you going to teach me? So Serge is right on target.
Yeah.
Danielle,
I,
chime
I,
in.
I will say, so as someone who's worked with a job coach,
Okay.
he has explained to me that there's a difference between a career coach and a job coach,
Okay.
job search coach. So, just for context, I'm sure he won't mind if I shout him out. Julian Sproul is his name. He's a former recruiter, has worked at, large companies, growth stage, public, all sorts of startups. And he has this like really holistic approach when it comes to the job search. And realistically what he helps with is the job search is one thing, right? You're looking for a specific job, you kind of know what you want, you know where you want to be, versus a career coach is someone who is trying to help you figure out life, help you figure out what do you want next in your career and how are you going to chart your path, and maybe what does your resume look like for that kind of path. But versus a job search coach, I think is a lot more targeted. So I think it depends on what you are looking for. If you're looking for more clarity, a job coach or a career coach might be someone who you just want to talk things through with. And especially if you're in your early career, especially as things are just really, it's just confusing right now, especially if you're graduating with something like an English degree. It's like, yeah, your mom is probably going to pay for you to get a job or a career coach, because what are you going to do with that? So I think I don't think that there's no point for either one, but I do think that you have to be very intentional with how you're spending your money and
Yeah.
investing in yourself. I will always be an advocate for doing that. But again, I think you have to be really intentional with what you want and what the purpose is in the first place, and finding the right person for you.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. But I'll give you this take. I think they're both scams, like job search or career coach. Like you clarified that, but I think there's still a
No.
reality. There is exception, and this is where Danielle, I'm saying, the gentleman you just called out. recruiter, tons of experience, has done it, knows what they're looking for. That's very different than the person that's hired as a hiring manager at a manufacturing firm for a year and got candidates, all of that jazz. And then it's like, oh, I'm going to be a career coach because there's money to be made. And unfortunately, like you mentioned, people that are early in their careers,
Yeah.
those are the ones that are getting scammed a lot of the time because they don't know the difference.
Yeah.
Real experience, someone that actually knows what you need and what HR TA folks are looking for and hiring managers are looking for. But I guess it's just a warning. If you are looking at a career coach, hey, do it. But watch out. There's a ton of scams. Do
What
your
What do
research.
you think about those placement companies like Pathrise and those that like
Yeah,
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 you
outplacement,
pay
yeah.
a specific percentage of your salary when you land it, and they help you
Scam.
get the job?
Joel, chime in, please.
Look, I think back in the day, that's how recruiting was actually done.
Yeah.
It was, and I know they got the service reverse recruiting. I think I would beware, and I think you gotta understand your financial situation, right? Like, there are people who get laid off, and maybe they have savings put aside, or they've done, decent financially, and maybe for them, paying for a service to find them a job is worth it. But I think you just gotta beware, and to Serge's point, look at the background, look at the success stories, look at what they're gonna deliver. Me personally, I would never use one because I know the industry, I know what I'm looking for
Mm.
when it comes to recruitment. But I will say, I know Danielle, you were talking a lot about early career folks. I think actually later stage career folks are the ones that tend to get preyed on because the last time that they would applied for a job, they didn't have Indeed and LinkedIn.
Mhm.
A lot of people are getting laid off for maybe the first time in their career, and then they're entering this like electronic job search jungle, and then that's when people tend to prey on them. Like, I've actually
Yeah.
talked to job search coaches that wait for people to put the open to work banner on and then message people. They put them in a sequence. That's a little bit predatory in my mind.
Yeah.
But again, at the end of the day, if somebody's getting you results and you're paying them, then that's up to you to make an informed decision of whether or not, as a consumer, you're getting your value. I just be careful, and I think that image of getting pushed onto the ground can describe how some coaches can be. Although I will say too, I know a lot of these people personally, and I haven't run into too many people that like don't want people to go to jobs, or they are like just intentionally scamming people. I think it's just from our perspective as like TA leaders, it's like we kind of like, are you sure you need this? So I don't know. A couple thoughts on that.
I agree. I think some are trying to help, right? And
Some
they
are, yeah,
do
yeah,
feel they have good intentions, but good intentions doesn't mean they can drive the results that you're looking for. The other
exactly.
factor, so Joel, like TikTok is a perfect example of so many influencers
Yeah,
giving
yeah, yeah,
job seekers advice.
yeah,
And I've been stuck in that rabbit hole where I'm like, okay, what type of advice are they giving?
I don't wanna
And
be
it's
that.
horrible most of the time. I'm like, what the hell? Like, they
yeah.
need to be called out.
I
Uh,
call them out. I call them out.
do you? Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I'm on the watch list. They know because then it's like then they check out my background. They're like, oh, this guy's got more followers, maybe on LinkedIn or these other platforms. I think the general rule should be in general with content creation. There is a difference between a good content creator and somebody that's good at anything.
Yeah.
There are people that are really good with content creation and they're engaging. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're good at other things. And that's maybe a shot at myself as well. But just uh, content is content. Being a specialist and a thought leader, they're not always, two of the same thing.
I will
Agreed.
say I never wanted to become that kinda creator of like, "Oh, this is, what I would do with your resume if, I was unemployed." I'd rather be the type of creator that's like, "Here are the jobs that LinkedIn says are really growing right now. Like these are
Sure.
the areas that you might want to upskill in, and giving people kind of that, of course it's still actionable because it's like, oh, I'll point you in the right direction in terms of platforms and how to upskill, but I'm not gonna tell you how to do something or pretend to be a coach because that's not my specialty.
I love it.
Torrin, let's end this segment on your advice to job seekers if they're looking at career coaches struggling to find work. Where would you guide them?
You can go to torrenellis.com. Let's just make this really, really simple.
There you go.
I mean, we wrote a book. I wrote a book, Rip the Resume. It was back in 2016, but as I've indicated in this session and beyond, it really is about experience. And so Joe made a very good point. There's one thing to be able to content create. There's something different when you have some degree of acumen and experience.
Yeah.
And so just find people that have a degree of footprint, a degree of experience, so that they can guide you appropriately.
Love it.
Sergi, good to have you.
Yeah, it's good to see you last week, Joel. Too bad Danielle didn't show up, but
It's all right. It's all right. Next
Well,
time.
I'll see you at Transform.
That's
We
right.
will all be-
I think
Transform.
we have a caller, guys.
All right. Who is it?
Hello. I am wonderful.
It's rather quick. I know you've been with us the entire morning. We thank you for that. I'm really, really curious to get your take. Like last year, this time during Black History Month, you were doing a session about D&I don'ts. So could we pick that session up again this year, or are you standing on a different platform? Like where are you, Stacy?
I stay on DEI despite the desire for me not to, because I think at a time when we are in a space that we have to figure out where does our integrity lie, and there are some people whose integrity is for sale, and that's unfortunate. Mine is not. So we will continue to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, justice in the workplace, in our communities, in our lives, because anywhere where people are gathered, that's what we have to be, that's what we're dealing with, right? Unfortunately, we have a lot of people who don't understand what DEI is and what it isn't. And most people hear the acronym DEI, don't even know what it stands for, much less what it does. So I think we're beyond DEI don'ts at this point. We are really at a point of needing to educate our government, our society, and our employees about what it is that we're supposed to be doing. So I think
You
that
seem
we.
to echo a feeling that I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk
Oh,
over you.
sorry, I was on a roll. I was on a rant. So no, go ahead.
It's all good. So you seem to echo a position that I take: principle over tactics, or principle over techniques. You are standing on your principle. You're firm in that belief that doing this type of work is good for the organization. Share with the listeners maybe one consideration that they can take to their leadership, that they can take to mid-level managers, that they may be able to take in their political corridor. Share one consideration that you might give them that would help them evaluate D&I a little bit differently.
I mean, I think it's a tough question to answer that and say one thing, because I look at it as it's not a thing, it is a mindset. So if I teach you how to see, I love the phrase, like, once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? We see inequity in our workplaces. We see the way people are being treated. And so we have continued to ignore that, though, because it is advantageous for some to ignore it. As long as it continues to be advantageous for some to ignore it, we will continue to ignore it. We don't feel it until it hits us. So what we need is empathy. If you notice, a lot of people who are crying right now about, what's going on in the administration weren't expecting the executive orders to hit them and to affect them. They were expecting it to only hit the illegals, right? The blacks, the gays. They weren't expecting it to hit other types of people. So now that it has, now they want empathy. Oh, feel bad for me because I lost my job. Feel bad for me because this thing has happened. We have to feel empathy for everyone, right? And until we can get back to a society where we actually feel empathetic for people, I can talk to you about all the principles, all the policies that you want, but you're never going to implement them in an equitable way until you feel it yourself. So
I like that, a belief system as well as behavior modification. That's what you're suggesting.
absolutely, there has to be. We have to go back to a place of empathetic leadership. And I don't know that we ever really were at a place of empathetic leadership. So we're kind of moving toward that. A lot of leadership right now, everyone, we used to be in this space of the leader knows everything. We're not. What we need to understand is that a leader learns everything. And so we can't keep going to our leaders and expecting them to have the answers. We actually need to work together as a group, as a society, as a team, as a department, as a function to learn like what do we need next? Because we're always evolving. We're constantly evolving. So if we're still using the same old practices and principles that we had 20 years ago, well, that was great for back then, but work has changed.
Yeah, it absolutely has. When we look at agile workforces, compartmentalized project based opportunities, work has most certainly changed. Stacey, we could absolutely have one of these conversations in a bit more robust of a way, but we're a bit short on time. So let me ask you this question, and then maybe you can answer it, follow it up with how people can find you. Talk just a little bit about, 60 seconds or so, your podcast that you do.
So I actually don't do a podcast anymore. I used to do a podcast called Inclusionomics. You can still find it. But a lot of my work you will find is on LinkedIn. So I just released a new course for recruiting foundations. A lot of what you were talking about today about how to recruit, relationship building, ATS systems versus pipeline management, et cetera. It's all in the recruiting foundations course because a lot of recruitment relates to DEI work. It's the biggest doorway into an organization. And every time somebody comes in and comes out, right, we change the culture of an organization. So recruiting, I would say, is probably the biggest thing for us to look at when it comes to how are we going to change the culture of an organization? Who are we letting in, and who are we allowing to leave? Right? Who are we allowing to walk out the door with that knowledge of our business? So where you can find me, always LinkedIn is easiest way. But my website is reworkwork.com. And I've set up a whole free learning container at learn.reworkwork.com where you can find books to read. You can find the courses on LinkedIn. You can find DEI newsletters, all the things that you would need to be able to really work towards a culture of inclusion in your workplace.
I really appreciate it. This is Miss Stacey A. Gordon with the Great LinkedIn Learning organization in offering. Thank you ever so much for joining us on the HR Morning Show. Make sure you have a good week, all right?
Thank you. You too, Torin.
Most certainly.
All right.
You
Well,
slayed.
seriously,
Gotta have her back.
amazing hosting, amazing guests today as well. Want to thank everybody who is out there. Man, we got a lot of people in the chat. So everybody who's active in the chat, thank you so much for the comments. I will say this: I run a lot of live shows, and there's nothing worse than doing a live show when nobody is commenting. Then you're like, "Are we actually live? Should just be a podcast." But I want to thank, first of all, Taran. I want to thank you for taking the time, joining the show, being a part of the show. Really, really appreciate that. Appreciate your insights. I am so looking forward to seeing you at Transform on stage. I'll probably be there in my dad jeans, like with a sign just says "Go Taran." But super, super great to have you on here.
Thank you, man.
Also, yeah. I want to also thank Aaron, our sponsor. Guys, the team at Aaron is so much fun. I'm sure you're gonna see us, or I see us. Like I'm part of the team. I was part of the team
You are.
last week. I'm sure you'll see lots more red sneakers in action, red shoes. If you haven't got your red shoes, get those. And then I want to just give a shout out to our other shows. We got the Alder Hour. That's on Mondays at 12 p.m. Pacific time. We've got Hire Her, a talent collective podcast. That's on Wednesdays. My first job with Mike Wood. Shout out to Mike Wood. Mike Wood, if you're out there, shout out to you. And then we have From the Desk with Jada Montemarano. Did I get that right?
You got it right. I got it wrong.
Did you?
I did. I
Okay.
did.
Well, there's a first for
Okay.
everything, so I usually am the one getting it wrong. But if you want to see some more Purple Acorn, please, please, please go to our LinkedIn page, go to our YouTube, go find us on the podcast providers. If you're interested in being a sponsor for the show, get a hold of me. I can set you up with the right people. And if you're interested in being a guest or you just want something else, go to Danielle. No, don't really. You can go. But Tara and Danielle,
Don't
great
bother
to
me.
host the show with you guys
Thank
and
you, thank
everyone
you,
out
thank you.
there. Yeah, thank you guys.
Torin.
All right. Make sure you all have a good week. All right.
You guys next week.
See you guys next week. Thanks, Taran. Thanks, Danielle. Bye.